You're listening to SM Media, the home of exclusive West of Scotland Football League content. Hi, folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media West of Scotland Football Show. I'm Scott McPike. It's a pleasure, as always, to be your host, and I'm delighted to welcome my special guest this week. It's a pleasure to welcome on the manager of the leaders of the Premier Division. It is a pleasure to welcome the Clydebank manager, Gordon Moffat.
Hi, Scott. Pleasure to be on again. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good, mate. I'm looking forward to getting into it with you. It's been a fairly busy few months since we last spoke. Obviously, Clydebank's sitting top of the table. We'll get into the kind of situation at the kind of title race at the moment. It's fairly exciting between now and the end of the season. Last time I spoke to you was the Glenafton game, where I thought you's played very well, got a big result that day, and I remember saying we kind of spoke that day, and you'd said that could be a big 3 points. He's won 3-2, and looking at that and what you have obviously done so far this season, how do you kind of assess where you are right now in terms of the league position, the points you've got on the board, and just overall the kind of how the seasons went?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're right. That was a big result that day. It was a really tough game, and we had a few guys out and stuff, and we had to grind out a win that day. But I think, I think on the whole, it's been a really positive season. We've obviously, we've led the division for a long time, and I say that to players all the time. You don't lead a division at any level. We've been a decent side, but obviously I think the frustration is for everybody is that so the stuff for the games in hand and that kind of makes the league a wee bit hard to read at times. So, but you can only focus on yourself, Scott. You've got to try and just build your points and then see what happens when it does the catch up. But so I think in that sense, we've probably since turn of the year, we've probably let ourselves down a wee bit in terms of the amount of points we've picked up. We had some really positive results at the very start of the year with Auchinleck and Pollock at home in particular, are the ones that stand out. But then we just, recently we had that wee run of 4 games, which makes it very difficult for us. But then last 2 weeks we've obviously a good home win last week and a decent point against a very good St Cadoc's team on Saturday. So we've steadied it a wee bit again, and we're now going to need to kick on, and we've got 5 games left. We're probably, I want to win every game obviously, but we're now looking at need to go and try and get maximum points now and hit the 60 mark, which for me was always a bit of I suppose a milestone in terms of points. When you look at last year, Beath won it on 66, but we probably had it wrapped up before then. So it's always kind of thinking in my head, if we could get to around about the 60 mark, then you're going to be right in the mix, and that's still the target. I spoke a bit on Banky's TV before the Toon game last Saturday, and they were asking kind of similar questions, and I said, look, it's not in my makeup, and it's certainly not in the sort of club's makeup to say, oh, well, it looks like teams will go past us. For us, it's still the same. It's try and get as many of those 15 points as we can and get close to 60, and then you're almost setting a marker. And if teams come past you, then that's well done to them. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it now, Scott. We're certainly not giving anything up. There's still games for us to play, and we'll just focus on them. But I think bigger picture wise is like a manager again. You always assess your season at the end, and for me, it's always just trying to about progression. I speak to players about it all the time. It's always about trying to get progression, and there's a few things that were probably in my mind from last season in terms of maybe conceding less goals, ultimately losing less games and gathering more points. And those were kind of 3 things that I wasn't going to maybe verbalise them at the start of the season, but in my own mind that was my sort of targets, and we're on track to do all 3 of them. So that's why in my mind it's been pretty positive, but we need to go and finish the season strong now.
And you obviously mentioned something really interesting about the kind of 4 losses in a row, and the Troon game, obviously, I'd messaged you after that, and you said just how pleased you were with the performance, and how important was that game after you've been on a run like that and lost obviously to the likes, like kind of obviously a defeat to be done there, and there was a defeat obviously away to Darrell as well. So how important was it to kind of get that result? And as you say, St Cadoc's and Saturday, we'll get into the game as a whole in a while, but two down at half time, coming back to draw two each. I mean, that'll feel like a massive point. Like, how important is that as the kind of last couple of games been to kind of go over that run?
Yeah, well, I think I said in my interview after the Tune game, I arrived that day and I kind of said to the guys like, enough's enough, guys. You know, we've had a really good season. Suddenly, from nowhere, you lose four games, which, you know, for a team that's not really lost many over a season, that's very difficult. You know, and you need to remember we're dealing with human beings here. So we've got, you know, suddenly guys are on the back foot going, geez, where'd this come from? You start to sort of doubt everything as a player, and I know that because I've sat in their position, and you think, am I not doing this right? And, you know, and you know, I've touched on a few different things, in a few different areas that the guys, if anything, they just continue to change so well, and we were preparing so well, and then we weren't delivering on a Saturday, and you know that was my job to keep searching for the answers, Scott, to make sure we got back on the rails, and we did that against Tune quite emphatically, and as I said, could have scored more goals on the day. So it's probably a bit of relief in there, if I'm honest, just to get back to where we were in terms of what I thought we're capable of producing, particularly at home. And as I said, we followed up with a point at the weekend from a difficult position of being two down. But the last two games have been really important just to get us back moving again.
In terms of obviously the title race, it's looking more and more that it's going to be at the maximum probably five sides in it. But the one thing that stands out obviously is Clydebank have played 25 games, so we say 5 games left. They've got 45 points. B, they're obviously in 40 points, but having played 5 games left. Talbot are really kind of beginning to pick up steam now, and you look at their kind of games that's coming up, and you think they could be in the hunt. St Cadoc's and Darvel are there as well. How important is it to be in that position where you've got the points in the board, and as you said, and I think it's interesting where you said that you have kind of installed the target. So as you say, like, come and catch us. How much rather would you be in the position you're in just now of having those points, or would you rather be kind of sitting in Auckland Lakes position where you know if you get 10 more points in the next 5 games, you're going to be top of the league? Like, you kind of thought about it that way? Like, how different is that in terms of kind of being a manager at kind of looking at it that way?
It's a difficult question to answer, Scott, because maybe round about the time just before those defeats that we had, you're certainly looking going definitely better having the points. But now when teams can go quite a bit ahead of you with their games in hand, you're maybe looking at their position as being stronger. But as I said, for me, it's there's nothing else for it, you know. And I know it is a kind of cliche answer, but you've got to just focus on your own games. I think what I will say is that points can go all over the place, and I've said it all year that you come in from your own game and you do, you know, I come in, do my team talk, we go through the office or whatever, and we start looking at the results with the backroom staff, and every single week there's no way you can predict the results. Somebody's about to read it to you, you know, and that's the thing with this division, the competitiveness of it, and you know, probably the division below us, which I know we'll probably touch on, is even worse. Like, the competitiveness is incredible, and if you're not on it, if you're not right on it, there's a risk you're going to either drop 2 points or lose, and that's kind of where we're at. And probably a good example was our home game the other week with Largs. You know, we were a bit off the pace that day, or very off the pace for our standards, and Largs were excellent, and you lose the game, and that's the same right across the division. I don't think you're ever safe in any game if you have a wee dip.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, as I say, we'll get into kind of what's been happening over the weekend, because I think it was a very intriguing weekend in terms of league results. But we did have some cup action. Darvel and Hurlford are through to the quarterfinals of the cup. They'll obviously have the quarterfinals coming up. I think it's next weekend. Talbot are through to the semi-finals. They beat Craigmark 5-1, and Shotts went to Glenafton and won 2-0. So Talbot and Shotts obviously in there, and Darvel and Hurlford have booked a place into the quarterfinals as well. And in terms of kind of what's coming up in that league, with the games that have got, like I look at obviously Darvel have got a lot of games to play in the league. They're going to play Auckland in the semi-finals as well. It's a lot of games for those clubs between now and the end of the season. How hard is it for them to be able to maintain that?
It's very hard, because I think we're probably on the other side of that this year, and that they went as much as I'm saying really positive and progression, and happy with a lot of our season. The cups have been a letdown for us this year, and there's probably no getting away from that. And probably since my time at the club, we've always been really strong in the cups. Last year we obviously had the cup final, and the year before that with the Scottish Cup run. So we've always kind of went quite deep in at least one of them. So this year's probably been the exception in that. But yeah, where I'm going with that is that I kind of know the feeling from last season when we went to the West final.
Yeah,
It's a balance that every other week there's a cup game coming in the horizon, and it's especially for the teams you've mentioned who all have aspirations of getting to close to the top of our division. That can be quite tricky to balance, team selection, and you're looking at even things maybe fans aren't looking at. You're looking ahead of suspensions and going, he's one booking away in that tournament, and that could affect that, and so you're factoring that and injuries and availability. And as you keep towards summer, sometimes even it's just as simple as guys only maybe here, and that's one of the frustrations of part-time football. So there's so many factors that come into it, and when you're trying to balance, 2, 3, or 4 competitions, it can be really tricky. And going back to what I said about league games, you take your eye off anything for a second, you're at the cup, or you're drop 4 points in the league, or whatever it is before you can blink. So it's a tricky balance for managers. Scott, we've not got it
yeah.
easy,
It certainly is, yeah. And as we'll get into the results over the weekend in the Premier Division, we'll start obviously St Carrick's 2, Clydebank 2. St Carrick's took a 2-goal lead, goals for Hughes and McKellen, but a big comeback for Clydebank, goals for McGonigal and Little. Before we get into the result, is that right that Nicky Little scored in the past 10 calendar years or something like that? Is it maybe longer?
Yeah, that's right. Aye, so for the past 10 years, he was saying that on Twitter. I think it's making him feel pretty old. It's kind of stat you're used to seeing a bit like Ryan Giggs back in the day, and that.
How important
But
is it, like for kind of like I just kind of want to go through your kind of players that have been kind of contributing with goals this season. Like there's a really good spread. Like Nicky Little's obviously scored 10 in the league. Callum Graham, Gallagher, Tom Collins, McGonigal, Mulcahy. They're all in kind of more than 5. So there's a lovely spread among your kind of goal scorers this season. How important is that when you're like one thing I think with Clydebank, and I know you agree with this, is that the squad, it isn't a massive squad, but there's a lot of really good contributors in there who all kind of chip in. Like I noticed that even with the 5-1 last week, I was 5 different goal scorers, so there's a good spread in there.
I think it's something that I suppose I'm quite keen when I'm building a squad that you can get a threat, and you can get goals and assists from your wide areas, or your sort of your number 10 or your advanced midfielder coming on, even your centre backs. It's probably a lot of people know I'm massive in set plays, and centre backs should be getting maybe 5 or 6 goals potentially. So, it's something when we do sort of squad build. It's something I'm always thinking about. Can we get a threat? Can we get more goals for that area? Because it is a big factor. Nick Little's always one. He's always just been a goal scorer for Clydebank. He'll probably go on to be the record goal scorer ever. And that's just a mark how good a player he is. But I think it is important that we supplement that. And probably Lee Gallagher's a good example of the last 2 or 3 seasons that you just look at his numbers come sort of player of the year time every time, and he's always up there in terms of his assists and his goal contributions. So, it's massive. I think it's something you've got to factor in when you're bringing players to the club or where you're looking to strengthen.
And how do you kind of assess the game over the weekend? Like 2-0 down to come back and earn a draw. How do you kind of look back in that?
I thought it's one of them. You could, if you're watching the game, you could see how Clydebank started slow. Actually, I think I'd be probably giving St Carrick's a disservice. I thought they started really well. We kind of knew with the shape we were going to go with on the day. It was quite aggressive and quite attacking. With 2 guys at the top of the pitch, and I knew we'd obviously done our homework in them. We knew how they would shape up, or we thought they would shape up. So I knew there could be a kick back in terms of middle of the picture at times if we didn't quite get things right. And to be honest, we never got things right in terms of the press at times, because we know that St Cadix are a good football team. They're clearly well coached by Martin and his team, and they're looking to play out in a certain way and in certain patterns, and they bring their fullbacks inside the pitch as well. So there was ways you've got to deal with that, and you need to get bodies in the right area at the right time, and it's not always possible to lock on in the middle areas of pitch when you're doing that. So I just felt we got our distances a wee bit wrong at times, and probably around the time they went 1-0 up, we made a wee adjustment on the side just to go 4-2-3-1. And I thought that got us a wee foothold the last 10 minutes of the second half. We were the better team. We kind of crept back into the game, and maybe unlucky not to get someone to go in at level. But so we spoke a bit more at half time and kind of addressed some of that stuff a bit more on the board. And I thought we had a good understanding with it. And one thing I said was, in this game, set plays would be really important, because we're big on them and they're big on them. You can see the detail that they put into their set plays, and we lose a goal after a corner, from a corner from whatever it was, 5-10 minutes into the half, which 2-0 gives you a mountain to climb against a team as good as that. But to be fair to the boys, I thought they were terrific after that. Were really good in spells in the second half, played some good stuff. There was some similar stuff to what we saw in the Tune game the week before. And we looked a real threat at times, especially when we made the changes, and a bit of freshness kicked us on again. So in the end, Scott, we could have won it 3-2, but at the same time, St Cadix were up the other end, had a few chances they could have won it 3-2. Martin was messaging us on Saturday night saying, that was some game, but it's not really good for you, is it? And that's just the way it is. We've had a lot of games like that this season. Two good footballing teams try to win the game, and we got a good point. Maybe unlucky not to win, and maybe fortunate not to lose.
And obviously, Martin's been on the show, and I find it interesting kind of talking to managers that come up against St Cadix, because I think the whole thing with St Cadix at the start of the season was a lot of players kind of dropping down a level, but we all kind of had that feeling that Martin obviously done really well at kind of youth level and things like that. Like, they would be able to gel, and I don't think a lot of people thought they would be title contenders, but they've been massively impressive this season by the way they went about it.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, I know Martin from I think it was my EFB was on that course in one of our groups, so I kind of knew of him, and I knew sort of done well at EK, and came through the sort of system there. So I'm not really that surprised. I mean, Martin and his backroom team, they're all involved in the Scotland setup. They're astute coaches, they know what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't a huge surprise to me. And then you look at, they've got the resources to go and get the players they have. So they've had the resources behind them, so they've had a bit of backing there, which is fine. And again, I'm really not going into the whole budget debate, because if they've got good resources there, that's fine. Actually, you've got to deal with that. But what I'm trying to say with that is they've went and got a large nucleus of a squad that's played the level above. Probably took them some time, and speaking to Matt before the game, he'd probably agree with that. It's probably taken some time to get them up to speed for the West of Scotland Premier, because I would say it's probably a different type of game from a Lowland League typical match in terms of just maybe intensity, and maybe not quite as much time on the ball as what you would see in a Lowland League match. And again, that's just fact. It takes time, but you can see once they had that first few months, they've gelled and they've sort of hit a wee rhythm. And it's no huge surprise when you look at the quality in their squad.
No, absolutely. Other result, kind of very intriguing at the top of the table, was Beath 1, Pollock 1. Pollock have had a real resurgence in the past couple of weeks, but I feel like 2 points short for Beath, obviously. Drawn 1-1. Callum Monty gave them an early lead for the spot. Scott Forrest had equalised for Pollock. What was your kind of thoughts when you seen that result on Saturday?
Again, there's just, as I said, there's no real result surprise. I think Pollock were obviously off the back of a really good result at Darvel. So obviously went in there with a wee bit of confidence, which probably plays a factor. Beath at home are very, very difficult to beat or get anything off. So I think it's a good result for Pollock. By all accounts, he could maybe have nicked it as well. I saw Owen Stott's save at the end. It was very incredible. But again, Beath at home are a tough nut to crack. You know what I mean? So a point there, if you're probably happy with that again, but they're maybe looking at a couple of chances they had to maybe nick it. So no, I mean I wouldn't say I was overly surprised with a draw, given Pollock's result at Darvel, and they've obviously bounced in there with a bit of confidence. So I wasn't overly surprised.
Largs, very, very good result for them as well. Very impressive run they're on at the moment. 1-4-2 at home at Gartcairn. Double from Darryl Duffy, Will Sewell and Devine with the goals for Largs. And obviously you'll know Largs too well for a few weeks ago, but I mean they're capable. That's what we said. Like they've been flying under the radar. They're sitting in ninth, and they're capable, as I say. Gartcairn are no mugs by any stretch, but 4-2 at home. Darryl Duffy, obviously, really experienced striker. Will Sewell's been scoring goals for years. They're capable of beating MD.
Aye, and I think that's the thing. I think especially against Gartcairn, that probably was one that maybe raised a couple of eyebrows, because Gartcairn, again, you look at their squad and it's all guys that have played up in the SPFL or round about that sort of level, and know the game very well, and Mick Dunlop's done great in there. Similar in many ways to St Cadoc's in terms of how they try to play the game, and I was quite impressed with them the games we've played. But as you said, is it a massive surprise, Largs doing that at home to a team? Probably not, because again, when we went down there early in the season, the Largs start so fast at home. First 20 minutes down there, I think it was it 2-0 we won down there, but the first 20 minutes had us absolutely penned in, because they start so quick. They're fit, they're athletic, and they can get on top of you. And that's probably what we've seen in the game at home park. To be fair, Scott, we've got a really good recent record against Largs until that game the other week there. We've had really positive results, but I've never once come off the pitch thinking, well, that was sort of cruise control. Even when you win, we've beat Largs. I think last season we beat them 4-1 at home in one of the cups, and it sounds crazy. You're coming off going, like, what a tough game, because they are. Arnie just has them organised. They're mega organised, mega fit. They're solid in their shape, and they've got legs. They can break at pace. So again, it's not a massive surprise. It maybe did raise an eyebrow or two, because I think Gartcairn are a very good side, but Largs at home, it's no huge surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. Big results down at the bottom of the table as well. 4 of the bottom 5 all met. We'll start at Atherley. Atherley 1, Troon 2. Omar and Fulton with the goals for Troon. Massive 3 points for them. And obviously it gives them a bit of breathing space for the bottom 3. Puts them 7 points clear. They've played a game more than Atherley. And I think with Troon, I think Troon will be fine. I think that's kind of my conclusion for the weekend.
I mean, that was obviously a huge game. I think, again, I get on with Dean Keenan very well, speak to him quite regular about the game in general, and teams and stuff. And I know how disappointed he was with the game at our place last week. Kind of one of them ones that, I've had it this season. Probably the Largs one is a good example. Maybe first game of the season we had with Benz. You get a couple of them this season where you just really think, we've really let ourselves down the other day, and I know Dean was feeling that way last week. So it was probably one I looked for, if I'm honest. I looked for a result to see if they got a wee bit of reaction. I was actually quite pleased for Dean. They got a wee bit of reaction there, but Artley again, such a tough venue to go to. You just need to look at. I think it was at the beat St Cadoc's, was it 3-0 a few weeks ago? So that tells you everything you need to know. I think the game when we went there, I think it was 1-0 we won, but again, last 10, you're sort of camped in your box a wee bit. So the dynamic there at the pitch, it's quite tight, it's quite on top of you. Really tough venue, so it's a great result for Troon. As I said, given obviously the result of our place the week before, to react with a victory at Arthley is a huge result for them.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. And there was a draw between the final game. Arvin Meadow won, Rob Roy won. It's difficult to really assess how this will fare in both teams. I think Arvin Meadow are obviously. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for them to, unless they can get a miraculous run going. I think it's going to be very, very tough. Rob Roy, I mean, it's a good point for them. They obviously had the advantage that obviously Atherley dropped points, and obviously Glenafton weren't playing. So I think Rob Roy will definitely be the happier of the two sides.
I would probably agree with that. I think Rob Roy would be happy with taking the point for that one, because, as you say, probably the position made they're in, you need to be getting 3s now rather than 1 points. It's going to be difficult for them, but knowing Ben again, we've got Connor Green and loan on there, and
Yeah.
again, similar to what I was saying about us, he's certainly not going to. He's no type of character to give anything up. So they'll keep fighting for points, but they probably need to be picking up wins now. So Rob Roy again, just a team capable of taking points. Even I think a couple of weeks ago they beat Troon away from home, albeit it was in the cup, but they're a capable team of coming and hurting you. And just what I said earlier, Scott, if you're not at it, teams in this division will hurt you and they'll take points from you. So I probably Rob Roy would be reasonably happy with a point on the road there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get into the first division, and again another wild week. But I think the overall kind of result goes to Drumchapel, 1-4-0 away at Bay Bowl. James Marks with a double goal from Anderson and Hopkirk. It puts Drumchapel second. Well, they were second anyway, but they're now 2 points within Petershill and have played 4 games less. I think overall, kind of Drumchapel are probably in the best position in terms of they've only 8 games left, and they're within 2 points of the leaders, and they've got the games in hand. And you look at their games that are coming up, like they play Thornywood, they've got 2 away games in a row, and then they've got Whitlets away to Cambuslang, Neilston, St Rochs. You would like to think that Drumchapel are probably favourites at the moment to win the league. Is that unfair?
Aye, they probably will be. Like you say, with a combination of points on the board and games played, they probably would be at the moment. Similar to ours, Scott, again, you get frustrated looking at the tables when it's all over the place, and you're going through all the different permutations of what if they get maximum points, you could do this, but then you look at, as you said, you look at a team's fixtures and go, oh well, that's 4 tough ones, or maybe there's 2 in there that are winnable or whatever. So it's just so hard to gauge, and I just think looking at that it's an absolute crazy league. And I'm quite enjoying the fact that I'm not involved in that league, and I quite enjoy looking at the results every week. But a question for you then, just to turn it around, Scott, how far down do you think the league goes in terms of teams still being in the mix for promotion?
Well, that was the thing. That was the one I was going to ask you about, because the next game I've got here, St Rochs beat Johnson Borough 2-1, right? St Rochs, I think, am I right in saying won the last 5? Yeah, I think they've won the last 5 games. Right, they're in 33 points for 21 games, right? You look at Petershill, 45 for 26. Now, it's madness above it. Like, you've got Shotts played 17, you've got Johnson Borough played 18. St Rochs aren't out of it. And that's probably like St Rochs and Kilbirnie, if they can keep winning runs going, the way the league is shaped that so many sides can beat each other, you win another 5 games in a row between now and the end of the season, you're in the hunt.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at. When I was looking at this afternoon, you're thinking, geez, you're going away down beyond mid-table. A lot of teams thinking, if we can hit a run here, we're still right in the mix for promotion, which is crazy, but it's good as well. It's I know we spoke a wee bit about the profile of the league and stuff off camera there. It's great for the profile of the West and raising it and getting attention on it, because people will be looking at division and going, geez, and it grabs you back. It does with me. It grabs you back every week to see how it's changed. So I have a good end to the season.
I was going to touch on Johnson Borough in terms of their kind of recent form, that they've lost the last 3 away games in the league. They obviously lost to Kilbirnie, lost to Drumchapel, and then lost to St Rochs at the weekend. Their next 5 games in the league are all at home. How important is that?
I think it's massively important, but I saw Jamie's interview. He was saying that they're moving some of the games. Would that be right?
I've seen something about that. Yeah, I did.
The Albion Rovers. So,
yeah.
So again, you don't know how the guys there, the players will react to that dynamic, or you're at home but you're not actually at home. So, so that was an interesting one. But I did see that they've got to run a 5 home games, so that'll be massive for them. And listen, they've still got plenty of games to make up. But again, I was watching. Knowing I was doing this, I was watching a lot of the interviews and stuff over the weekend and getting up to speed with things. And Jamie's probably right what he's saying. He knows that they can't keep saying the same things. Sooner or later, we need to start getting the points on the board. So, but you look at the quality through their squad. You look at the guys they've brought in. They've got an absolute quality squad there, and they're well capable of going and even winning every one of those games. So, they'll still be right in the mix, Scott. For me, they've got a lot of quality there, and they'll do teams damage. I think it's just a wee matter of they maybe need to catch a wee run. Obviously they've got the Junior Scottish semi on the horizon as well. How much of that's playing in players' minds and stuff as well. But no, I think they've got too much quality and too much experience. I think they'll still be in the mix.
Yeah, I think it's going to be wild between now and the end of the season. I just hope that it continues to be like that, because if we go into like a final weekend and there's potential like 4 or 5 clubs, it could be like box office stuff. I'm really intrigued at how it's going to go. Ashfield, I thought a massive result for them. They won 2-1 at Colwyn, and Ashfield, like we obviously had Michael on a couple of weeks ago, and I've been so impressed with how they've been this season, and they've got the games as well. I mean, I still think they're Drumchapel on 58 goals, Ashfield on 56. I mean, they're capable. They've got really, really good players. Bobby Barr has been superb. He was superb again on Saturday, I've heard. And they're capable as well. They're more than likely going to be in the hunt.
Yeah, again, Michael's a guy I get on with really well. Got a lot of time for. A lot of respect for him as a coach as well. What he's doing. We played Ashfield pre-season, so again, I'm not surprised to see how well they're doing. I thought they looked really well drilled, well coached in pre-season. We played them in the Renfrew tournament, albeit we had a bit of a disaster of a weekend that weekend. I think we had 10 players missing for both games with combination injury and illness. But watching Nashfield over that weekend, I was really, really impressed with them, and I like the way Mick talks about the game. He sees the game very well, in my opinion, and I'm not surprised to see him competing for things, because he's built a good squad there. As you said, touched on Bobby Barr. He's obviously got good SPFL experience, but he's got good bit of youth through the squad as well, and good wee mix there with experienced guys he's got and guys that sort of know the level as well. So they're a very good side.
Rutherglen 4 and Neilston 2. Rutherglen are 35 points for 23 games. I mean, they're in the hunt as well. It's going to be interesting to see these sides as well. Rutherglen, big result. Woodhouse, McManus, Simon, Smith. And Rutherglen are a side that, just looking at the kind of games they've got coming up as well, they play the side round about them. So they go to Ashfield on Saturday, then go to Colwyn, and they pick up 6 points for that. They're back in it as well. But they're massive for them.
I don't think you can discount them either, because as you said, that they're always a team that you look at, they're maybe playing the more fancied teams, or the teams that are really favourites for the promotion places, and you don't get that surprise when they go and win one of those, particularly at home. Again, it's just from experience, it's a difficult venue to go to, and they're always going to be thereabouts, I think, and in terms of results at the end of the season. Probably the thing that maybe lets them down is just that wee bit of consistency at times, because they'll hit a wee run, then they drop off for a couple. But no, I wouldn't be surprised to see them catch a wee run either.
Final game, Cambuslang 1, Flatlets 1. Probably a result neither side will be happy with. I think both sides would have been desperate for a victory, and it just kind of means that it's a game less for each, and they've been unable to pick up a win. Both sides could stay up, but it's looking fairly difficult now for both of them.
But it's probably something what we're saying about Meda. You need to, you're kind of at this stage of the season, probably regardless, Scott, to be honest, of where you're in a division. When you get March, April, you need to be hitting 3 points, because whatever your aspirations are, whether it's to stay in a division or improve your place for last season or go for a title, it's 3 points are important now, because it just, I know obviously points always count for the same throughout the season, but it just always feels like wins are just a bit more valuable when you get to the business end, and it can definitely spark momentum a wee bit more, I would say.
Absolutely. We'll move into the second division. 2 results. Larkhall into 6th place. They won 3-1 at home to Bonneton. Yoker won 2-1 against Caledonian Locomotives. Again, 2 sides, Larkhall and Yoker, like flying under the radar, and Caledonian, it's a massive missed opportunity for them not winning, because that would have been a chance to go second.
Yeah, and again, I'm kind of repeating myself, Scott, but these are the games where you need to be maybe grabbing the victory, because it's a bit momentum, and I know, especially when you've got the disparity in games played and stuff, you've got to try and get your points when you get a chance to play, because if midweek games, when the midweek games start to approach, you'll see that in our division. you maybe get 2 chances in a week to go and hit a team. And I speak about that sometimes with other guys. It's an opportunity to put a dagger through another couple of teams. And it kind of kicks you on. So I'd probably be disappointed I never got the win there.
Yeah, absolutely. Glasgow Uni 3-2 win away to Glasgow Perthshire. And big results for Forth and St Anthony's. Forth won 2-0 away to Muirkirk and St Anthony's 1-0 at home to Maryhill. Probably the winner at St Anthony's, probably that's a big 3 points for them, takes them out the relegation zone and puts them into 12th place. And I think Danny has to get a lot of credit for how well he's done there.
Again, difficult venue, the Ants. And again, Danny's been in the game. He always sets his teams up well. So, again, another big result for them. To get a victory, it hopefully pulls them away a wee bit.
Absolutely. The third division was fairly hectic this weekend. Vale even drew 2-2 at home at Glasgow United. And second, third, and fourth all won. Bellshill won 2-1 at home to Ardea. Lanark won 4-2 away to Greenock, and Fanart 2-1 away to Thrieve. That's beginning like the top four. Greenock are still in the hunt. Thrieve could still do it as well. That's shaping up to be a fairly intriguing title race as well.
Yeah, that's interesting as well because we've obviously got Vale at the top, but then is it Bellshill and Lanark are sitting there with the 3 games. Do you know what I mean? So they're sitting in a really strong position. But you're right again. The likes of Thrieve, sitting back on, I think they're on maybe 19 games at 19-20. Thrieve sitting in that position. They're still a threat as well. Again, another team we played in pre-season. And really good side with some good players. So that's going to be another one that you could end up going in April, May with 4 or 5 teams even fancying to win the title, let alone the promotion places. So it's good, similar to what I was saying before, it's good for the profile, if you get that. I know you always sometimes you do get a team sort of streaking away, but I think that's what I would prefer to see, a good title race.
Yeah, absolutely. Les Mahago unbeaten in the last 5 in the league. They won 2-1 away to Irvine Vicks. Big win for Port Glasgow, 4-3 away to West Park. And huge 3 points for Kilsyth Athletic that takes them out the drop zone. They won 2-1 at home to Girvan. And again, Les Mahago deserve a lot of credit. Down at the bottom of the table, Kilsyth, Bailey. I think Bailey will be slightly disappointed by how they've been this season, but any win, as you say, at the moment is massive, especially at home.
I think, again, similar to what I was saying with Mick Oliver, Bailey's a manager I've got a lot of time for as well. I speak to him, he reaches out to me at times, certain wee things and loans and stuff. He's come into our training a couple of times as well. So got a lot of time for him, and again, in my opinion, really good coach. So you're probably right, just by maybe the standards he set last season. He'll maybe be disappointed, or I know he'll be disappointed, but again, when you're coming into a division, it's no easy, and there's a lot of sort of big traditional junior clubs in that division as well. So it's not like it's not an easy division, Scott. So it's difficult to pick up wins, but I think they'll be all right, and I think they'll hopefully finish strong.
Yeah, absolutely. 4th division. Bit of interesting news actually before we come on air, Gordon. St Peter's, obviously, there's been a difficult situation there, and obviously John Dale and his coaching staff have left there. We wish them all the very best, but it's very likely that the Knightswood coaching staff are going to go into St Peter's. Very interesting news. Obviously, St Peter's have done really well, and I wish John all the best. He's been great to deal with, and just an interesting. Obviously, Knightswood have come into the league, and it shows you though, like that could be very interesting how that kind of shapes up.
I read that myself before we came on as well. An interesting one again. Again, difficult to comment too much, Scott. You don't know a lot of time. Football can be a wee bit cloak and dagger at times. You don't know circumstances. There could be a number of factors in there. But why they're looking to go in there. So you've got to kind of make decisions. Speaking here as a manager point of view, you've got to make a decision that's right for you. Might be a move that fits for you in terms of maybe the club itself, or maybe it's a logistics. But it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But obviously, wish you guys well.
Yeah, absolutely. Giffnock won 4-1 at home to Carluke. Lugar won, Rossvale won. So just to kind of explain where the leagues are at, Giffnock are in 50 points with 26 games. They're in 4th. Rossvale and Lugar, there's only 2 points between them, so it's shaping up to be fairly exciting. I think, to be honest, I think Glenvale have got the games in hand to win the league. I think Thorn will be second, and I think it is between Rossvale, Giffnock, and Lugar for that third spot.
I think obviously Glenville are top just now, and they've got a couple of games in hand there. So you're looking, if you're them, you're looking to try and just put your foot on the gas and stretch your way. Exactly what I spoke about before, Scott. If you get an opportunity to play, can you get 3 points rather than one? And it becomes something very hard to peg back, especially when you're the team. It's a different dynamic that if you're the team leading and you've got the games in hand, that can be difficult. But again, like Rossvale's one, we played Rossvale in a friendly a couple of weeks ago. Speaking a wee bit to Josh after that, and again, we fire messages back and forward about coaching stuff and that at times, and he's another one who sees the game very well, and so we need to discount them being right in the mix either.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it's going to be very interesting. Eglinton won 3-1 away to Easterhouse. It puts they're in levelling points with St Peters and East Kilbride, so they could have a really strong finish this season. And Knightswood won 4-3 at home to Saltcoats, obviously the last game for the coaching staff there. And overall, kind of one conclusion, Gordon, before we kind of wrap up, all 5 leagues are so competitive. And when we first started doing the kind of West, covering the West, that's what we wanted. That's what we were hoping we would get, and it's coming to the fore now.
I think you've probably only got out of all the divisions, you've probably only got Ardrossan that are kind of streaking away with anything. And as you said, that's obviously when the club's moved over to this structure and being part of a formal pyramid. I think that's obviously the aim, and it'll still take maybe clubs time to find their way into their sort of natural position within that pyramid. There'll still be maybe a couple of seasons before you get there, but certainly I don't think anybody can complain about sort of entertainment value. Even just touching the fourth division there, you look at the number of goals being scored, and if you're going in and taking any of these games, do you know what I mean? You're getting value for money for the cost. It's you look at admission prices now up the SPFL, and some of them are eye-watering. So I do think we've got a good product here, and I think we just need to build on that. We touched a bit about the profile and stuff. We need to try and maybe grow that a wee bit more, but certainly the product in terms of football, I think, is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. But before we finish up, Gordon, 5 games left of the season. Just intrigued with the kind of way that the fixtures have shaped up. Obviously, 3 games in the next 3 weeks: home to Atherley, away to Troon, away to Hurlford, and then nearly a full month break before the final 2 games. Is that a worry?
I wouldn't say it's a worry. It's more a frustration again for me as a manager. It's a wee bit frustrating that you get that gap, but as I touched on, partly down to our own fault, maybe not to go deeper in the cups this year. So we've probably lost a few games that we would have normally had, in seasons gone by. So that's part of it, and part of it's maybe weather in terms of some teams losing some games, and we've managed to obviously on our Astro managed to play more often than not. So there's a few factors in there. Obviously the Junior Scottish Cup still being in the mix as well. He's wiped a couple of fixtures out here and there, but listen, I think overall, Kenny does the fixtures, does a good job. It's a thankless task, and we're much closer now, I would say, to what we wanted. Maybe in the days when I was playing, and with no exaggeration, Scott, I was sitting maybe on a Saturday night, not knowing who I was playing against the next week, which is ridiculous. When we're trying to be a serious, semi-professional league in the country, that is ridiculous, and I think we're getting a lot closer with that now. I think it still needs work. I'm sure Kenny would say that himself. There's still maybe wee lessons learned as you go through the first 3 seasons of the West, but I definitely we're much closer, and Kenny deserves a wee bit of credit for that, I would say, just for getting us in a position where we can kind of map things out a wee bit better. But to answer your question, April's going to be a frustrating month for us, but we've got. Well, I'm sitting down actually with Nicky, our captain, tomorrow. I've kind of got some plans in place for where I want us to go, and we'll just iron those out tomorrow finally with Nick. But we'll have a couple of friendlies in there. We'll still be training hard. We'll do a couple of different types of things with players as well when we don't have games. And as I said, we'll certainly not be taking the foot off the gas until till we're finished at Pollock on the last day.
Yeah, and like when you're in this kind of title race, and obviously there's, as you mentioned, the kind of midweek games will be coming soon. There's going to be a kind of game that's going to have some sort of a feeling towards the title race in kind of near enough every week. So how important is it going to be? Will you keep tabs in that, or is it more just about getting these 5 games? Is it kind of, do you have an eye on what's going on elsewhere? Is it difficult to really assess that?
Well, I think as I said, my sort of focus is on my players and my club and what points we can get, and that'll always be the message to my guys. But of course, we'd be lying if we said we're only going to look at other results. We're obviously looking at results come in, and I think the one thing that maybe is a positive to take from our fragmented end of the season in terms of fixtures is that I can get out to plenty of games. So in terms of me looking at improving again and building even better for next season and trying to sort of go again with that, then I can get out and look at some targets and some players and in our division, down the leagues, the lowland league. So between me and my staff, we'll be doing a lot of that as well. So that should be positive from our April. I suppose that we'll get out and we'll take in plenty of games.
Gordon, I can't thank you enough for joining me in this episode, and best of luck for the rest of the season, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Always a pleasure, Scott. Cheers.
Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in, folks. Please subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels, and we'll be back next week for a new episode. Thank you.